Hi there guys, I would say welcome back to WoT Replay, but technically this isn't a WoT Replay video. This is a bit of a departure video, as you probably could have guessed by the intro. Yeah, recently I've got back into the hobby of making models and joined the International Scale Modeler Forum. So firstly I'd just like to apologise to all my World of Tanks subscribers that are watching this thinking it's going to be another World of Tanks video, which it isn't, unfortunately, so sorry for that. There will be another one up this weekend. I've had a lot on my plate the last few weeks, so I haven't had time to do one, but there will be more coming this weekend onwards. And back to the tanks, or back to the modelling. It's yeah, something I used to do as a kid and right the way through my teens. And the last time I actually made a model was 13 years ago, so I decided as soon as I got plenty of time on my hands to get back into it, and that's when I found International Scale Modeler Forum. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to all the guys on ISM on the forum. Great bunch of guys, really friendly, and I've learned so much and had my memory refreshed and my knowledge expanded so much in the last, what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so it's not been long, and it's been amazing. Everyone's really friendly, everyone's really welcoming. If you've got any questions, they'll always help out. It's just such a nice community. I checked out quite a few forums and sort of bits and bobs and places, and there were some of them you had to actually pay to subscribe to access the full forum and things like that, which I thought was a bit cheeky. I mean, I thought the idea of a forum was for people to gather and discuss their hobby and go through their common interest, and the idea of paying to do that sort of, kind of, to me, it defeated the point of it. But yeah, ISM was the one I decided on, and I'm really glad. The World of Tanks thing comes into it is because the first tank I'm building in 13 years is it's a T-34, and it's being based on my T-34 in World of Tanks. I started talking about it on the forum, and somebody had the idea of starting a group build, and so I come up with some basic rules and we set up a group build. So there's a load of the guys on the forum that actually play the game as well, and they're all joining in, so there's quite a few of us actually all building a tank, and it's got to be based on the ones in World of Tanks. So you've got to have the same camo and the same details and things, and it's going quite well. It should be quite an interesting thing to see how everyone's come out. Mine's is going alright at the moment. I'll stick some photos up of that in a bit. Right, I should have written down some notes. I keep forgetting what I was going to say next. Let me have a swig of coffee and I'll figure it out. Yes, anyway, all you ISM guys, there's lots of you do your own YouTube. A few of you, I'd seen your videos, like Lenny and Hamilton Barkus. I'd seen some of your videos before I joined the forum. And that was another one of the reasons for me joining the forum, is because there's people that I enjoyed watching your videos already on the forum, which was handy. So it just seemed like the right place to go. And I thought it was about time that I put a video up, as soon as I've got my own YouTube channel and I do videos. So I thought, yeah, great, get stuck in. But I haven't got a tripod, and I've got a digital compact camera, so it's a decent one, Panasonic one. But I just can't for the life of me get it set up in a way where I can film myself and not be at some ridiculous angle or sellotaping it to a lamp or something to try and get it set up. So I'm just going to do this little collage and put in some World of Tanks footage and some pictures of my group build tank and things like that, and just jabber away for a bit. And then when I get a tripod, I can do some proper videos like the rest of you. And mainly this video is to answer a few questions. There was a couple of questions that Coen raised on his last video, or Michael, which was a good video. It was, I was actually laughing quite a bit while I was watching it. It was quite funny. I love watching your videos, mate. They're entertaining, as well as very informative. You're a extremely good modeler. You're at a level that way surpasses mine. And just watching the way you do things is a real eye-opener. And I think I'm going to learn a lot just being around you. Likewise for all the other guys, like Paul, Lee. There's a lot of guys who've got different areas of specialty. Mine's is mainly armour. I did make the odd helicopter and plane as well, but I mainly like tanks and armoured cars and that sort of thing. Just because I felt you had a bit more artistic license where you could bash them up and make them damaged and dirty and things. Planes, you can weather them in and make them dirty and used, but I didn't have much joy in making them like battle damage and stuff like that. And also planes were a bit trickier to display. Like a decent sized scale tank is a decent size, whereas a plane you need quite a bit of floor space, so to speak, like to accommodate for the wingspan and things like that. So that's why I moved over to tanks. Anyways, the questions. Coen brought up the fact that he was doing the Highland Clansman figure, I think it was a 75mm figure, and he's going to do it as a Campbell Clansman, Campbell Highlander, which I really like the idea of. I think it's an awesome idea, but I have to admit the idea of painting tartan is one of the things that has always terrified me. When I was younger, I actually tried it years ago. I had some spare bits of lead sheet left over from like making flags and things and tarps, and I had cut them out in the shape of a cloak that would fit like at the time it was 28mm Warhammer 40,000 figures that I used to paint. So I had it roughly to the right size because I always wanted to make a Highlander thing, and I tried about 10 different attempts at painting tartan. Some of them got close, but it was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever tried to paint. Paint a little tiny face, no problem, but doing a tartan cloak, it's a challenge. So I'm looking forward to see how you tackle that one. I'm sure somebody of your knowledge and experience and talent will do a good job of it, but all I can say is hats off to you, and much respect for deciding to go for that and tackling that. And I'm sure that's going to be a fun, interesting, if not a hair-pulling, frustrating time for you at the same time. But yeah, can't wait to see it. And when you were talking about that, you brought up me, because of my name, McLeod. I know I don't sound it, but I am actually, in fact, Scottish. I lived in Ayrshire, on the coast, just south of Glasgow. 100% Scottish, although I've lived in England for, where are we now, 2013, 85, about 28 years, 27, 28 years. So yeah, lived here for quite a while. The name McLeod is actually, it's not my surname, it's my middle name. And that comes from my great-grandfather who married a McLeod. He was a Filson, and I think there's kind of a Irish-Scottish heritage to that name. Like my uncle and that researched it a while ago, and I'm pretty sure like from hundreds of years ago it comes from Ireland, somewhere along the lines. But yeah, so McLeod, even though it's not my surname, is actually my middle name, and that was given to me by my parents to keep the McLeod name going, even though it wasn't technically a bloodline. Although, 1/8 McLeod or something like that. But yeah, so it's definitely there. And also, the Highlander films, they're great films, love them. So it just made sense as a nickname in games and things like that and on forums. It was just an obvious one to go for me. And what's the other question? The passion for hobbies, the passion for modelling, and favourite tank, favourite vehicles. With me, I hope this isn't just coming across as illegible gibber, by the way, because I didn't really plan it. I haven't even written anything down. I just sat down with a cup of coffee and a cigarette and started talking. So hopefully it's coming across as there's some kind of intellect behind it. But yeah, anyway, the reason I got into building models, my dad built some. My uncle, who was quite a bit younger than my dad, he was always building models and things as well. When I was a kid, I must have been about 7 or 8 or something. My uncle brought round a box, and he basically split up all his models, or a lot of his old models. He had like tanks, soldiers, boats, planes, like you name it, there was stuff in there. And he split it between me and my other cousin, who was roughly the same age. And in that little bunch of stuff that I got was a Tiger. And I just fell in love with it straight away. I mean, there was a Sherman in there, I think there was a Crusader, and all the same scale. Just the difference in size between the Sherman and the Crusader, and it just blew me away. I couldn't imagine people in Shermans and Crusaders having to fight a Tiger, just when you see the size difference next to each other, and the size of the guns and everything. I was just kind of in awe of this massive metal beast. And also, like watching war films with my dad. I sit there watching things like Battle of the Bulge, Kelly's Heroes, Bridge Too Far, all those sort of old films, and they all featured tigers, but they weren't actually tigers. Like Battle of the Bulge, I think they're some type of pattern tank that plays the tiger, and they've got Chaffies and things like that, and a few Shermans, and in A Bridge Too Far it's a Leopard 1 that they've got playing the tiger. So, I mean, yeah, they're using tanks, but not tigers. But that was just the combination of that. I mean, in those films it was always depicted as being, it was like, if there was a tiger, like you basically run away from it. it was game over if a tiger came around the corner. And like when the Paras went to Arnhem, they had to go up against like 2 SS Panzer divisions. That was, yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine being faced with that. It's an awesome spectacle, I'd imagine, seeing tigers coming down the road. But when you're having to fight them, that would just be too much. So I mean, that was kind of building the foundations for me loving German armour. The Tiger, the Panther, the Tiger 2, I mean, they were so far ahead of the Allies in design. It was like Kevin said, they're completely over-engineered. Like they, rather than concentrating like the Russians did with the T-34 and the Americans did with the Sherman, a series of tanks, and mass producing something that was easy and cheap to make. Like the Germans, being typically Germanly minded when it came to engineering, went to do the best possible tanks they could, which is a logical step, but excuse me, not a very practical one. I mean, they were so far ahead. Things like what were the guns they were using, the armour. I mean, fair enough, the Panther copied the T-34 and just made it a bit more advanced when it came to the sloping armour, but there's stuff like the torsion bar suspension. I think it was only the Germans that were using that, which gave a much better cross-country ride. They had the best by far optics and the best guns, the best sighting systems, best radios, all that sort of stuff. And I used to read magazines. My mum and dad got me there's a collection, I can't for the life of me remember the name of it. It was a World War II collection, and it came every fortnight, and it was a magazine, and in the magazine it came in like a plastic wallet, and you got the magazine, and you got some data sheets, you got a copy of a newspaper from that day in 1940, whatever it was, from that day, and you got copies of things like ration cards and stamps and ID cards, military ID cards, German ID cards, American ID cards, and all these different little bits and bobs. And I think it was every 2 months you got a big binder, so you could put them all together in a binder, and that had loads of stuff in it, and there was always big bits in there about tigers and things. And yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it. And then when I was about 16 or 17, I actually started buying kits when I got a part-time job at McDonald's and doing paper rounds and stuff. I had a bit more money, and bought a Tamiya Tiger, and it cost me about I mean, that in itself was quite expensive for model back then. It was about £18, I think, £18, £19. And then I bought through Hystrix agents. I can't remember. Verlinden keeps popping to mind, but I don't think they were Verlinden. But basically, Friel model type metal track links, individual ones, and they cost like £38, £39, and double the price of the kit. And they're like the same as Friel, but it came with individual pins, and they weren't drilled out at all, so you had to clean them all up and drill them out. And it took me about 2 weeks of evenings just making the tracks, but once they were up and painted and weathered, it just blew me away. I mean, it just completely changed the look of the tank. Compared to the Tamiya rubber band tracks at the time, I mean, they were just out of this world. It was amazing. And yeah, so it's always been German armour. King Tigers, that's just sheer size of it. Jag Tigers, they're awesome, massive. I mean, I remember reading about a Sherman platoon that was holed up. I think it was somewhere near the Ardennes, and they were sort of on respite, just sitting in a village. And they went to the edge of the village to have a sort of scout around. And one of the guys, I think the guy in the lead Sherman, he had his, because they weren't expecting combat, like his turret was turned slightly to the side or to the rear, and they didn't know that about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away down the road, there was a couple of Jag Tigers from one of the heavy tank battalions sitting in a tree line. They saw the Shermans poking down the road, hit the first, like one of them took a shot, hit the first tank on the turret, completely smashed the turret. Luckily for the people in the Sherman, there was no explosions or anything like that, but it pushed the tank about, I think it was 4 or 5 feet back down the road into the Sherman behind it. Now, whether it was just firing a solid shot round, like a solid shot armour piercing round, and they were just lucky that it didn't hit anything inside that blew up, or it was a dud shell, but just the pure kinetic energy of that 128mm gun. And it's just stories like that that just had me fascinated with it. It's completely unbelievable. So yeah, so that's why I like modelling. You kind of, every model you do, you learn about them. I mean, when I started off, you read the instructions and it tells you a bit about it. You could go out and you could go to the library and read a bit more about them. And then as you progress through when you're modelling, you can actually pick subjects. I mean, there's all the big tank aces. People like Michael Wittmann, like probably the obvious, probably the most famous one due to the Villa Bocage. Otto Carius, Radley Walters, the Canadian guy, Paul, Bolter. There's, yeah, I mean, lots and lots of really fascinating subject matter, and you can actually, Ernst Bachmann, of course, right, from Coens Panther. Lots of like real life people that had real life vehicles, and there's plenty of subject matter, so you can decide, oh, I'm going to make Michael Wittmann's Tiger. You have to think which Tiger at a time, which one was he in, go and get all the subject matter, and you just get lots of research, and it's just really fascinating having to find out all that stuff, and you always find out a wealth more information than what you need, and you end up just expanding your knowledge base on loads more subjects, because you might be finding out about one particular tank, but then you go in and you start finding out about what other vehicles that battalion used, and like the supply vehicles and the armoured cars and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's brilliant. I think there's a way of learning history, and you can make a little piece of it yourself, and all the time you've got that thing sitting there. So of course I was always crap at drawing. I can't draw to save my life. I've got no artistic skills when it comes to putting pen to paper or pencil to paper or painting pictures and things, so I'm very rudimentary. But when it comes to making a model, like things in 3D, that, yeah, I can cope with. That's one of the reasons why I've always thought I've been quite a creative mind, but I couldn't find the right medium to express that until I started making models. I don't think I was anywhere near as good as some of you guys on the forum. And some of you, like Coen and Hamilcar Barkus and that, and Paul, and some of the work I've seen, Russ, and well, pretty much all of you. It's, I mean, I don't think I was ever up to that sort of standard. Probably come close to it a few times, but then I'm going back a long time where techniques have changed so much, like especially when it comes to weathering and different materials that are available now for doing that, all the pigments and things and the different washes. I mean, back when I was doing it, the only sort of weathering was dry brushing and ink washes, and that was about it. I didn't really hear about much else. So yeah, it's been fun finding out all these different things, all this new stuff, and trying to think of, I did have something else I wanted to say. And it's gone completely out of my mind. Oh, that was it. I thought of a question. Right. Seems to be the trend where people do these videos and then answer questions and fire a question back at the rest of the community. So I'll do the same. My question is to you guys, let's say hypothetically you were, in the next year, you are only allowed to build one kit, and one kit only. Which kit would it be? Specifically, a model of what by which manufacturer? So it's like your ultimate kit, I suppose. I'm just having this terrible thought that as I'm asking that question, somebody else might have asked that as well. Yeah, anyway, that's the question. I'm going to be so embarrassed if somebody has answered that. Oh well. Mine's would be the Tamiya 1/16 scale Tiger 2 radio controlled tank. Something that I've looked at in catalogues and online and in magazines for years and years and years, and it's always been just out of my price range, just out of my reach. So if I had the opportunity to build any kit ever, just one, it would be that one. Didn't even matter if I radio controlled it or not, I'd still want to build it. It's just awesome. But yeah, anyway, another question. If you could do a diorama of a famous World War II character, it could be like a general or a tank commander or a pilot or just any, what diorama would you do? What would you choose? What would be your favourite diorama to do? Like the favourite setting, like the ultimate diorama setting. Like, would it be Wittmann in Villa Bocage or Otto Carriers on the Eastern Front, that sort of thing? So yeah, there's another question. I think mine would be Wittmann, Villa Bocage. Just, it'd be quite a big diorama because there'd be lots of knocked out British 7th Armoured Division vehicles and tanks, but then maybe just the 1 or 2 Tigers. So quite an ambitious one. Probably more likely for a 172 than a 135th, but hey ho. You can dream anyway. So yeah, anyway, I think I've been babbling along for long enough. Hopefully this doesn't come across as just mindless waste of time, like crap. But yeah, I'd just like to say a big thank you to all you ISM guys, all the help, all the support and everything you give, and just being so friendly. Such a good community, especially to Karen as well. A big thank you to you. There's questions I've asked you and things, and you've always been right there with the answers. I mean, some of them you've even made a video of it. I've got out of my bed and put the computer on the next day, and you've done a video. It's like, holy cow. Dude, you're just an amazing character, and yeah, I hope you keep doing your videos as well, because they are excellent. I think a lot better than me anyway. I think you've got a much better voice for videos than me. I've never been much of a broadcast type person. You'll probably see that as well when you see my face when I get my camera sorted out. But yeah, anyway guys, that's me signing off, and I shall catch you on the next one. Hopefully it'll be a proper video by then. We'll actually have faces and things. So take care, have fun, and I'll see you on the forums.